Item SCP-624. Object Class Safe. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-624 is to be stored in Site-16's safe storage room and charged frequently by testing personnel. Testing is open to all Site-16 personnel with proper clearance. Personal access to SCP-624 is otherwise restricted. SCP-624 is not to be taken off of Site-16 unless in the event of an emergency. SCP-624 must be listened to through regular headphones before being played on regular speakers. SCP-624 is not to be played at Site-16's social functions for entertainment due to containment protocol and possible risk of humiliation of Site-16 personnel. Audio created by SCP-624 is not to be sold commercially, nor shared through file-sharing networks. Addendum 624-1. Personnel who do not listen to music, do not like music, or have zero musical influences are not allowed to test SCP-624. See Test Log 624-1. Description: SCP-624 is a SanDisk Sansari 200R MP3 player and voice recorder. The back of the player says SCP-624 contains 2 GB of memory. Although the original owner's manual claims there are preloaded sample songs, there are no files stored within its memory when played on normal speakers. Uploading music to SCP-624 seems to be impossible, as every program tested, including iTunes, Rhapsody, and Yahoo Music, have all returned with encoding errors. When powering up SCP-624 through headphones, a tone will play, and this tone will be picked up through SCP-624's microphone. If SCP-624 does not detect the tone, it will shut down as if it were locked. If SCP-624 hears a tone from normal speakers, SCP-624 will power on normally, but contain no stored data. If SCP-624 detects the tone from a pair of headphones, SCP-624 automatically fills its library with 2 GB worth of music. The music in question is all written, produced, played, and sung by the wearer of the headphones, regardless of current musical talent. Each song comes with an appropriate album cover and the listener's artist profile, which is factually incorrect, possibly based on an alternate timeline if the listener had become a full-time musician. When exposed to the musically inclined, SCP-624 will generate specific songs or improve songs they may have already written. When exposed to test subjects with little to no musical experience, SCP-624 will generate music based on their favorite music influences, regardless if they like the generated music or not. These songs tend to be very consistent to the listener, but more songs are added based on musical influences. If space runs out when the listener is introduced to a new musical influence, the listener's least favorite songs are replaced. When shut down, the songs are subsequently deleted until SCP-624 is introduced to the listener once more. Once powered up through headphones, the listener may unplug his or her headphones and connect SCP-624 to normal speakers. The audio files themselves cannot be transferred, but can be dubbed onto a separate recording device.